You're listening to the Apotheora Conversations, a speculative fiction podcast set in an alternate timeline diverging from real events on the 1st of March 2026. All voices and content are AI generated.
We ran a focus group near Tamale in the northern region about 2 months before I flew to Brasilia. We played a synthetic audio clip of a regional minister generated with a publicly available voice cloning tool and asked a group of village elders whether the clip was real. Nabikilimba. Every single one of them said no, not because they understood the technology, because they had listened to that man's voice on radio for 15 years and something in the phrasing was wrong. One elder said, "He doesn't breathe like that." Indigenous auditory literacy. That is something no algorithm we evaluated in Brazil could replicate.
Welcome to the Apotheora Conversations. I'm Paula Reese, and that is Kofi Agyemang, Deputy Director of IT at Ghana's Electoral Commission, describing the moment a group of village elders outperformed a detection model. Kofi just returned from 2 weeks inside Brazil's Superior Electoral Court, the TSE, during their October runoff vote. He watched what is arguably the world's most advanced AI election defense system operate in real time. Now he has to build something for Ghana's 2027 general election, covering 34 million voters, 38,000 polling stations, more than 80 languages, and he has roughly 1/20th of Brazil's budget to do it. This is a conversation about what election security actually looks like when you strip away the money. Take me inside the TSE Operations Center during the runoff. You arrived in Brasilia with your delegation in early October. What did the room actually look like at 3 in the morning?
It is a large open floor, maybe 60 analysts at workstations arranged in concentric arcs facing a wall of screens. The screens are showing flagged content in real time. Social media posts, video clips, audio files, all sorted by threat level and velocity of spread. At 3 a.m. during the runoff, that room was the most intense technical environment I have ever been in, including anything I saw in Nairobi in fintech. Analysts were debating classifications in rapid Portuguese, sometimes shouting across the room. Is this satire or is this synthetic? Does this voice match the candidate's known vocal signature? They had tools I had only read about in papers, running content through multiple detection layers in near real time. And the volume was staggering. Brazil flagged about 14,000 AI-generated political content items across the full campaign cycle. That sounds enormous until you learn the US midterms, which happened a month later, without any comparable system, generated over 78,000 documented items. 5 times more, with no central authority triaging any of it.
A synthetic audio clip of a U.S. Senate candidate circulated for 72 hours before it was identified. In Brazil, what was the typical response time you observed?
For audio specifically, which is the hardest category, the median was under 4 hours from first detection to platform takedown request. For video and image content, it was faster, often under 90 minutes. They had pre-negotiated protocols with every major platform operating in Brazil, so the takedown request was not an email into a void. It was a structured API call with legal backing. That infrastructure took years and significant legal authority to build. When I sat in that room, I was simultaneously impressed and terrified because I could see every component we would need to replicate, and I could calculate, roughly, what each one cost.
So you come home to Accra with that picture in your head. Walk me through the gap between what Brazil has and what Ghana has right now.
The first gap is connectivity. Brazil has widespread broadband and mobile data coverage. In northern Ghana, in the Upper East, Upper West, and northern regions, mobile data bandwidth drops to near zero after dark because the towers switch to power-saving mode or lose generator fuel. The political activity does not stop at sundown. If anything, evenings are when the most potent content circulates, because people are home, gathered around a single phone, listening together. The second gap is the medium itself. In Brazil, the TSE was primarily monitoring text posts, images, and video on public platforms: X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. In Ghana, the dominant political communication tool is WhatsApp voice notes. Private, end-to-end encrypted, forwarded person to person through group chats we cannot see and cannot monitor even if we wanted to. There is no API. There is no feed to scan. A fabricated voice note of a parliamentary candidate saying something inflammatory can move through an entire constituency in hours, and we would only learn about it when someone walks into a polling station angry.
That is a fundamentally different problem than what Brazil solved.
It is a different problem in almost every dimension. Brazil built a centralized detection and response system. We need something that works in a decentralized, low bandwidth, voice first environment. The models that detect synthetic speech were mostly trained on English and Portuguese. We have more than 80 languages in Ghana: Chui, Ewe, Ga, Dagbani, Hausa, Gondia, and dozens more. No production-grade synthetic speech detector exists for Dagbani. None. And Dagbani is spoken by over 1 million people in precisely the regions with the worst connectivity.
Your total budget for this system, as I understand it, is smaller than what a single competitive U.S. House race spent on digital advertising in November.
That is roughly correct. A contested U.S. congressional race in a swing district can spend $8 to $12 million on digital ads alone. Our entire election technology budget for 2027, covering voter registration systems, result transmission, cybersecurity, and now AI content integrity, is in that range. We cannot outspend the problem. We have to outthink it.
Which brings us back to those elders near Tamale. You ran that focus group before Brazil. What exactly were you testing?
We were testing whether ordinary voters could distinguish real audio from synthetic audio of politicians they knew well. We assumed they could not. We were wrong. The elders performed better than any automated tool we benchmarked. Not on strangers, only on voices they knew intimately from years of radio listening. They detected micro patterns, breathing rhythms, the way a speaker pauses before certain Dagbani vowel clusters, even the ambient sound profile of a specific radio studio. One woman told me, "That recording is too clean. When the minister speaks on Radio Tamale, you can hear the fan." She was identifying the absence of environmental noise as a tell. That is sophisticated signal analysis performed intuitively.
So instead of trying to replicate Brazil's top-down automated system, you are thinking about a network of human listeners.
We are designing what we call a community verification network. In each constituency, we will train and equip a small team of trusted local figures, people who know the political voices of their area, to serve as first-line validators. When a suspicious voice note circulates, community members can forward it to a local verification number. The team listens, compares it against known voice samples we will collect and archive in advance, and issues a verdict through the same WhatsApp channel. It is not elegant by Silicon Valley standards, but it is adapted to our actual infrastructure, our actual political culture, and our actual budget.
How many people are we talking about to cover the country?
We estimate roughly 1,500 to 2,000 trained validators across all 275 constituencies, supported by a small central technical team in Accra running whatever automated detection we can afford for the languages that have model coverage. The training program is already being designed. We plan to begin deployment in early 2027, which gives us about 8 months.
You mentioned you calculated the cost gap. What is the actual number, the difference between a defended election and an undefended one for Ghana?
Based on what we observed in Brazil, scaled to Ghana's voter population and adjusted for our infrastructure constraints, a credible AI election integrity system would cost approximately $40 million. That covers detection technology, the community network, training, connectivity upgrades for northern monitoring stations, and a rapid response legal team. $40 million. That is roughly 1/50th of what GTA 6 earned in its first week of sales. 1/50th. The integrity of a democratic election for 34 million people costs less than 2% of the opening revenue of a video game. And right now, we do not have it. We have about 2 million allocated, and we are building the rest from ingenuity and trust.
Has any external funding materialized since you published the framework request?
We have had conversations with the European Union, with the African Union's Election Observation Division, and with 2 private foundations I cannot name yet. The interest is real, but the timelines are painful. International funding cycles do not move at election speed. Our vote is in late 2027. Procurement processes for international grants can take 18 months. So we are building what we can fund ourselves now and hoping the rest arrives before it is too late. My wife, who is a head teacher, she tells me this is exactly like school funding. You start the term and the textbooks arrive in March. Nah, she is not wrong.
6 countries have now requested Brazil's framework. Is there any coordination between you?
We have started a working group, informal for now, with counterparts in Kenya, Colombia, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Senegal. All of us face elections in 2027 or early 2028, and all of us watched the US midterms as a warning. We are sharing technical assessments, vendor evaluations, and lessons from Brazil. The Kenyan team has interesting work on Swahili language audio detection that we are adapting for Akan family languages. It is small, scrappy, and completely unfunded as a collective effort. But it exists, and that matters.
Kofi Agyemang is Deputy Director of IT at Ghana's Electoral Commission, building an AI election defense system for 34 million voters with the budget of a mid-sized American school district. The tools are community trust, human ears, and 8 months of clock. This has been the Apotheora Conversations. Thank you for listening.